the truth is we have to become a majority. I think actually Jeremy Corbyn is a minority in Britain. He's a minority in Britain. We have to find a way that the minority becomes the majority. And the way we will do that is not simply by meetings, but by action. People feel confident about their ability to change the world when they are doing things. You don't become confident by sitting at home. You become confident by marching, by protesting, by direct action and by striking. That's when you feel confident, and that's when you feel also able to vote for much more radical things and to take part in much more radical movements. And therefore, one of the reasons why we need a much higher level of struggle in Britain is because it will make it much easier to have that sense of confidence and change. And we want to make Britain ungovernable. I'll put it quite simply. My vision is that the Tories can no longer rule in the way that they hope to rule at the moment. They are getting things through very, very quickly, and they now have a very small parliamentary majority of only 12. And we want to get a situation like that in 1974 in Britain, where the miners' strike created such a crisis politically for the Tories that they had to bring forward the general election, and they were driven from office, and a Labour government came in instead of them. That would be a wholly democratic act, because it would show that the majority of people in Britain were forcing the Tories from office. If we had won the 1984-85 miners' strike, the Tories would have been driven from office. It would have been a wholly democratic act for that to happen. And that's what we have to work towards, to win that sort of opportunity and that sort of transformation of society. And it will raise a whole number of questions about a much richer form of democracy. Democracy is incredibly limited in Britain today. You don't vote on the vast majority of decisions that are made about your life, and even when you do, the people you elect are very, very unaccountable to you. We should have democracy as the pulse of everyday life, not an occasional episode where we are allowed to make a cross on a ballot paper. We should vote on what's produced, how it's produced, and to whom it's distributed. We should elect the people who run the health service, the people who run the justice system, the people who run the education system, and if they don't do what we want, we should be able to remove them from that office. We should have no part of life which is hived off from genuine democratic control, and that would be a much richer form of democracy than exists at the moment. My final point is this. Sister at the back raised the question of how concretely can we make sure that we unite? And here there are things we can do. It's important that the PCS union, the FB union, some other unions are talking about getting together a big social movement of people inside and outside the Labour Party to support Jeremy Corbyn's policies. I welcome all of those sorts of initiatives, the Momentum initiative that Mark spoke about. We need more of these sorts of things, but most of all, we need struggle. We need to see the big movements against nuclear weapons, against austerity, against the anti-union laws. Michael Foot was not a very left-wing leader. But in the 1980s, when he was Labour leader, he called a series of giant mobilisations across Britain, across unemployment, in which hundreds of thousands of people marched. It would be a great initiative if Jeremy Corbyn and the union leaders who supported him called for something like that again across Britain. That there was a mass mobilisation of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who went on the streets and said, we are not going to take it and we want change. And that would humble the people who don't support Corbyn inside the Labour Party. It would send a shiver of fear through the bosses and the politicians who support them, and it would raise all of us in the sense of confidence about change inside society. And very finally, the lesson of Greece and of Hollande and of the Labour governments since 1924 onwards is that nothing can really be changed, particularly at a time of crisis like this, without an assault not just on the specific figures who run the system, but challenge the priorities of the system itself. That doesn't mean that we say revolution tomorrow, but we have to recognise that this system is designed to crush us. Jeremy Corbyn will not be like Tony Blair. He's not going to line up alongside American imperialism and call for the bombing of the Middle East. Jeremy Corbyn is not going to do that. That's not really the end of the argument, though, because Jeremy Corbyn can be crushed by the system. He can be crushed by the generals, he can be crushed by the Labour right, he can be crushed by some of the trade union leaders who want to get rid of him. That's the real challenge. There's this immense force which can only be stopped by an immense force on our own side. We have to find a way to stop people who will stop at nothing. And that requires an immense social movement, but it also means we have to be as centralised, as organised, as determined as their side is. It's not a game. In the end, they will use violence if necessary. They will use every underhand anti-democratic method to try and overturn us. And the only way we're going to be able to stand against that and to get the sort of liberated, equal, open society that we all want to fight for is by organising now, and that's why you should join the Socialist Workers Party.